Morning, Beverly. Good to see you. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Genevieve. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Miss House. Okay, is your chat working for you guys? There you go. I
Beverly,
see.
good to see you. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Genevieve.
Okay, we're in the YouTube channel. All right. Give about 20 more seconds and we will just jump right in and get started this morning. All right, I see we got some comments coming in. I'm going to ask if everybody would drop a comment in this morning. I want to make sure that you guys are accustomed to participating. You can give me your salutation this morning. I appreciate that. Good. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin this morning's presentation. I pray things are well with each of you as you move into this day. I want to say good morning, family. Welcome to the Science of Living, not as a philosophy and not as inspiration for this moment, but as a practical way for restoring our inner authority, our alignment, and our authorship in everyday life. So, this space exists for a very specific person, and I mean, very specific purpose. It exists for those of us, particularly African Americans or Africans in the diaspora, who have outgrown living by inherited beliefs, inherited fear, and inherited limitations. And now you're ready to understand how life actually works from the inside out. Because many of us were taught how to survive systems, how to endure pressure, how to perform under expectation. But very few of us were ever taught how to govern our lives internally. And without inner government, even gifted people live below their capacity. And many of us are guilty of that. So let us begin by grounding ourselves in what this work actually is. Science of living is the study, and more importantly, the practice of aligning our identity, values, our thoughts, our emotions, and actions, so that life begins to respond with coherence instead of resistance. Now, before we go any further, let us name a shared experience that we all have in common. Many of us have uh, felt something we rarely say out loud. Have you ever seen or sensed deep inside of yourself that you are capable of more than you of what life has currently reflected to you? Not because you lack intelligence or not because you lack effort, but because something keeps interrupting your momentum. Progress appears, then patterns reappear. Clarity comes, then confusion returns. And what you're left with is wondering, what is this that keeps pulling me back? This invisible uh, essence we're dealing with, or this invisible party, this invisible person. So, with that in mind, I want you to um, become present. And we want to address what is actually happening today. Mastery is rarely blocked by the lack of opportunity. More often, it's interrupted by internal conditions that we never consciously resolved. And we want to take a look at that. And many of these conditions did not begin with us, they were inherited through disruption. A people whose cosmology was interrupted, history was distorted, identity was renamed, and our values externally defined. We find individuals with this kind of history often inherit survival patterns instead of mastery patterns. And most of us go through our lives in more of a survival mode, inherit with things that we have inherited and have never really addressed those patterns that we have once protected us. So the behaviors that we had took on to survive uh, can, at that moment, be advantageous. But as those situations have dissipated, but we still continue to exhibit those types of behaviors, it's not to our advantage. So our message this morning is entitled "The Silent Battle Between Potential and Pattern." Because many of us possess undeniable capacity. We were created in this image after his likeness. We have the ability to do, but we don't. Yet we find ourselves navigating recurring internal resistance. We're losing the inside game. And once this battle is named, we can finally reorganize it. This silent battle between our potential and our pattern. The difference between being a pawn in life or expressing as a king or a queen in life. So where you might ask, where does this framework come from? Before we examine the conditions themselves, it's important to understand their origin. This framework is informed in part that I'm speaking from is it is formed from studies I've been involved in, particularly some of the readings of Dr. Naeem Akbar, who is a pioneering scholar in the African-centered psychology. He identified four developmental conditions observed amongst populations experiencing prolonged cultural disruption, which we have, and those are alien self, anti-self, self-destructive, and organic conditions. His work did not present these as permanent labels, but as adaptive responses shaped by historical dislocation, identity distortion, systematic misevaluation. And this is what I have observed, and I have kind of adopted these when I'm looking at what's going on in my life, when I'm engaging individuals who are seeking to master life. These are some things we want to address. So in today's teaching, these original insights are integrated with contemporary trauma science. And so what we are discussing today is not pathology, it's about development. These four conditions are drawn from a synthesis of African-centered psychology, looking at trauma science, diasporic identity research, and even observed behavioral patterns that I see in our communities and how people are using it to navigate through life. And it's setting them up for failure. So, in simple terms, we're giving language this morning to patterns that have long been observed, but because language restores power, we're going to speak truth to power. So, the four developmental conditions, they're foundational. So I want to kind of walk through them so you become familiar with them this morning. These are not diagnoses. I want you to know that they are what I would like to call internal conditions that many within the diaspora, that's you and I, have had to navigate often without any kind of balance. So the first one I think I want to really look at is what's known as um, alien self. So we begin where most disruption begins. And what is that? It begins with identity. When identity is shaped primarily by survival pressure, or what we see is a person learns how to function before they learn who they are. We become skilled at performance, but unfamiliar with our own internal authority. And that's why what I see happening when I look and at the expressions that we as Africans in America are bringing forth. So what this often looks like over the last 40 years within our communities is that across the past several decades, many have been encouraged, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, to measure success primarily through eternal or what I would like to call external acceptance, economic survival, or assimilation into dominant cultural norms. This has often produced a pressure to code switch, or I like to call it code switch identity, where we separate our professional selves from our authentic selves, and we begin to define our worth through performance rather than inner authorship. As if we look at the industries that are shifting, neighborhoods that are changing, and institutions that are have rewarded us for conformity over the cultural community, it has caused us to be in a situation where we are not really showing up as who we are, but showing up as we want to be seen. So we kind of got to restore ourselves to our historical greatness or the potential for greatness. So we have to take a movement towards mastery through self-identity, or restoring our self-identity. So identity restoration shifts the question when we do this from what do they expect from me? What does society expect from me? What does others expect from me to what is actually true for me? So mastery cannot grow from a borrowed identity. And that's what I'm seeing when we talk about alien self disorder. We're talking about showing up uh, influenced by trauma and not showing up um, as our authentic selves. We don't like ourselves. For the most part, you find that we want to change everything about our external selves. And I can look back in the early 70s where we had skin lightening cream, for example, or other things that we want, the weaves and all those things. And not just to make this a cosmetic thing, but many times when you're looking at how the vast majority of our communities are showing up, they don't show up looking like themselves. They're looking like someone else, taking on what I would like to call an alien self. We're identifying with the long hair or the straight hair or other colors. Now, that's not to say that people can't choose those things to complement them for a situation, but I have found many people are taking on these identities. When they look in the mirror, they're seeing a made up person. And so we can look at it cosmetically, but we also have to look at it psychologically. How do we define ourselves? What is acceptable? We want to speak the King's English, things like that. And a lot of that has to do when we talk about alien self disorder. It's about acculturation. And so we have a misorientation, and we need to really deal with that. Um, Rachel said those negative experiences can show up in bodily form of a disease. And so we start presenting ourselves something other than ourselves, and that says we don't accept ourselves, and our body begins to show that, like the statement made here. The second condition that we want to kind of look at is anti-self patterns. Once identity begins to surface, another layer often appears: our relationships with others. That is, long exposure to distorted narratives can create subtle self-conflict. This can show up as harsh internal dialogue, difficulty receiving affirmations, overcompensation through achievement, or distrust within our own community. What this often looks like is this: over time, persistent negative imagery, unequal standards, shifting economic pressures have contributed to a cycle of what is known as overperformance. That is to prove worth. You've heard it said, we have to be better than them. It also not only have presents an overperformance to prove our worth, it presents a skepticism towards praise, intra-community criticism, and success tied tightly to external validation. So many learn to equate value with productivity, visibility, or exceptionality rather than inherent worth, creating what we see as pressure-driven motivation, and quiet self-doubt even in the presence of achievement. Even though you achieved, you have the degree or you have the experience, but you doubt yourself. And what this is what is known as an anti-self pattern. That is where we internally misevaluate ourselves. Or another way of looking at it is we devaluate ourselves. Now, these are things we have, conversations we have going on within ourselves. We don't just come out and say these things, but if you begin to look at people, how they're responding to life, you will see for the a vast majority of African Americans who are moving towards what we call acculturation. And acculturation is to it aligns directly with alien self disorder. You are acculturating into someone else's society, someone else's persona, and you lose your own. We each are authentic, and part of this conversation has to do with standing in our authentic selves. But many of us don't even know who our authentic selves are. So when we look at the anti-self pattern, that is the internalized misevaluation, disevaluation, the work becomes more of a accurate self-regard, accurate self-regard, not ego, not denial, but an accurate worth, really evaluating ourselves for who we are. When worth stabilizes internally, discipline becomes stewardship rather than punishment. So when we can see our worth and we resonate with what our worth is, then we move into a more disciplined life that allows us to steward ourselves. So as the identity and value stabilizes, we then encounter this third condition, the patterns that affect execution. This is what is known as self-defeating cycles. When we look at this, I find many are highly capable, but yet struggle with consistency. I see this all the time with clients who are showing up. They are capable, but they're not presenting consistently. Okay, they start strong, but not able to sustain it. This is often mislabeled as laziness, and it's really not laziness. It is energy shaped by urgency instead of purpose. So many times it's the urgency of the situation that dictate what you do versus being centered around how does this align with my purpose. So when we look at decades of economic validity of volatile situations that we've had to deal with. We've had to deal with resource gaps, the need to respond to immediate pressures. They've reinforced our short-term decision cycles. And what happens when you do that? Prioritization, urgent needs over long-range planning, then you again you drift off of your purpose. And this has shown up as stop and start initiatives, interrupted educational or career pathways, or reactive financial patterns, and talent expressed in bursts without sustained structural support. So when we look at this issue, it's often been environmentally shaped urgency, not absence of capacity. So how do we restore this? We got to realize that purpose organizes energy. And then discipline becomes the self-governance, and the structure becomes the liberation, not control. So when energy is directed, patterns lose authority. That's how we break away from some of the habits that we have. We have to first of all, identify what our purpose is, what makes us uniquely us. And as an individual, what makes you uniquely you. So once we look at this, then we can begin to develop a plan of action. And finally, the fourth condition that he talks about, and the he I'm talking about is Naeem Akbar, is the that not all struggle is cultural or mindset based. Some of the challenges are neurological, trauma based, developmental, or medical. Meaning some of what we're dealing with is organic, and we need to get help with those organic situations. Okay. When we look historically, limited access to culturally competent care. Now, when I talk about culturally competent care, be it if you're going to the doctor, if you're going to see a psychologist, a social worker, if you're dealing with any kind of healthcare professional, many times we assume that we're receiving the best care, but we're not because their cultural competency is lacking. Just because you're getting care from a someone who looks like you, someone who perhaps grew up in similar types of situations, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting care in a culturally competent way or in care that's taking in consideration your uniqueness. Many times the research is built on normative information, and the normative information does not even include you in the pool of those who are being looked at. And so, one of the things each of us has to take into consideration when we're choosing our healthcare providers, when we're choosing individuals who are assisting us, you want to assess for their compassionate distinction, meaning are they culturally competent? Some of the questions you can ask is like, do you belong to like if you're dealing with a psychologist or a social worker, you might ask, do you belong to the Association of Black Psychologists, or do you belong to the National Association of Black Social Workers? Or you can ask them very specific questions, which we often don't ask of our healthcare providers. How does this situation impact, or what does the research say about this particular issue when it comes to people of African descent? You're going to find they may start stumbling, or they may say it don't make a difference that all people are the same, but we're not the same. Okay. Well, let me say all people are the same, but we're not equal. We are all created differently. My body is not the same as a female's body. So if a doctor, I'm dealing with someone and they specialize or been trained on the female model, then they may overgeneralize and misdiagnosis or miss something that's pertinent to who I am and how I show up. And so sometimes when we look at engaging our healthcare professionals in particular, we think that they're automatically going to have our best interests in mind. But if they're limited in what they know about you, they can they'll be limited in how they respond to you. And so what I'm advocating here is that we even with your ministers, anybody that's delivering a certain level of service to you, you want to ask, uh, are they sensitive to who I am, or are they grouping me into a model that I don't really fit in? And so we have this silent war going on that we have to deal with. Many African Americans or Africans in the diaspora live with a clear potential but inherited patterns that contradict potential. This produces internal friction, not failure, but friction. So you're not failing, but you're dealing with friction. So we have to understand that alignment removes unnecessary resistance. So we have to come into alignment with who we are. We have to shift from survival to authorship. So this brings us to an essential shift that we need to consider making. Survival asks us, how do I get through this? Authorship, which we all should be taking on. We're created in this image, after this likeness. We were given dominion. We were given individual wills. We were given authorship. So we got to ask, what am I here to build or sustain? Okay. What have I come here to be? Uh, when we look at this, mastery begins when inner government is restored. When you are looking at, why am I here? What is my why? What is it that I am to do? But you can't ask that question and not deal with the interruptions you have had to deal with. these silent interruptions. So now you're not dealing with so much as the Ku Klux Klan or any individuals, but now the interruption is a system. The system as we know it, is it set up to help you or to hinder you? Is it set up favorably towards you or is it a roadblock for you? So we got to ask, how we got to move from how do I get through this to what am I here to build and sustain? So let us connect this sequence that I've kind of shared with. When our identity is restored, value becomes accurate. The more healthier you'll be as a person. When you cannot fully accept the man or the woman in the mirror, then you have an identity crisis. Then you're working against yourself. You're not working with you. There's no coherence. You're trying to be something that you naturally can't be or weren't meant to be. When value is accurate, energy becomes directed. When you can really assess your true value, then your energy becomes directed. And when your energy is directed, patterns begin to change. The things that you've been doing that doesn't represent your highest and greatest good, they are easy to for you to begin to interrupt. And when we see our patterns change, we get outcomes that are stabilized without constant strain. I mean, you don't constantly feel like, it's a task just to show up in life. So what we need to begin to look at is these three, what I like, or four, these what we call this disorders, okay, things that have come as a result of the interruption. One being that we have to understand that there is a true thing as alien self disorder or identity disruption because of what the 400 years of the European enslavement, the 1200 years of the Arab enslavement, we've had a major disruption in how we show up. Others, people's cultures, expectations have been superimposed on us, even expectations that they weren't living up to. And I could drill that down into the into Christianity itself. I can't speak about Islam in a specific way, but I can speak very specific about the influence, the negative influence that Christianity has had. We hold the line. We live it out. We expect it. We turn the other cheek. But the same individual who go by the same Bible is the one that's delivering the blow. So when do we look at what has been given to us? Now, here's a real question. How can you expect the one to oppress you to give you something that's going to liberate you? When we look at Christianity, it is not our indigenous belief system or spiritual practice. Matter of fact, Christianity itself did not take true formation until 300 years after the supposed death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. It took 300 years. It wasn't until 327 AD that they convened this council to decide what books would be going to into the Bible per se, and what beliefs, the whole concept about the Trinity. It wasn't always part of Christianity. The Trinity concept was adopted in 300 AD, 300 years later. A lot of what is attributed to Jesus have said or done was not formed, or the story was not aligned until 300 years later. But now here's what happens. We take that on, something that was given to us by the oppressor, something that we had to take on for survival, and it was part of our acculturation. And so we've acculturated into this belief system, and we did it for survival. That's why today I believe there's a great falling away because it's not natural. It don't add up. It isn't jiving. But many of us continue to try to hold on to these things because we inherited them. And some things you have to let go. And if you're not willing to let go, you got to know that you're tethered to the past. You're limited in really self-expression. So we got to deal with alien self-disorder, which comes out of our identity being disruptive. We got to deal with anti-self patterns. What things do we do that we are our own worst enemy? We've internalized these things and we evaluate ourselves in a way that we shouldn't be evaluating ourselves, and we end up with a misevaluation of who we are. And you're behind the eight ball because you believe this is who you're supposed to be, but it's nowhere near who you were designed to be. And then the third one was self-defeating cycles. When we look at alien self-disorder, and when we look at anti-self patterns that we take on, it ends up in self-defeating cycles. How is that working for you? How is it working for us? And we got to be willing to ask ourselves if what I have taken on, what I have inherited, does it represent my liberty, my liberation? Liberation does not come through marching. It's an inside game. It's a mental game. If you are free inside, you're free indeed. I remember a story about the little elephant, the elephant that was tethered to a stake when he was about 300 pounds. And every time he would try to move beyond the limitations of that stake that was in the ground, and the chain would only let him go so far. Eventually, the elephant stopped. As it grew, it knew that it couldn't go farther than this chain, so it didn't go against the resistance. And that's what happens. There's limitations that have been put on us through systems that we attempting to acculturate into. I'll never be a woman. I'll never be Asian, or I'll never be in. I can dress like the Asians. I can learn the language of the Asian, but I'll never be an Asian. Even if I go and get any type of surgery that would make me look like an Asian, I'll never be that. And how many of us are trying to be something we are not naturally that? And as a result, we have some conflict. So as we move into this year, we want to accept all of us, all of me, all of who you are. You want to be able to stand in the mirror and be, okay, identify what you see. You see a black man, or you see a black woman, do you embrace that? Or have you acculturated? Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with acculturating, but when you acculturate at the expense of who you are, and then when you acculturate and then can't truly express as you who you were designed to be, then acculturating isn't good. There's levels of acculturation that we take on, because there are certain things that we may find in other people groups that, hey, that is something we can add to. But when you add so much to that you lose the you of you, then acculturation isn't good. And that's really something that we have to watch, because all of these things create self-defeating behavior. So that's, what I really want you to be conscientious of as we move into this year, as we move deeper into, this is a great time to do an assessment. Black History Month, maybe it should be a time where we assess, have we drifted from who we are? Or are we on point? What things do I need to let go? That's important. So I want you to take a quiet moment and consider this personally. Where in your life is your capacity obvious, but your patterns still interrupt your progress? Think about that. Awareness is not condemnation. It's really the doorway back to authorship, to be the author and the finisher of your fate. So as we close, I want to return to this central truth. Our issue has never been lack of potential as a people. Most of what we have in the way of things that make life comfortable came be as a result of a people that was discarded, considered disgraceful. We built the White House. We built this country in essence. History has already proven that we have capacity. The challenge has been unresolved internal conditions shaped by the interruption. So we got this thing going on, but we don't want to identify that thing. We don't want to address that thing. So when internal order is restored, mastery stops being rare. It becomes natural again. We'll have communities like those communities that have been destroyed in the past, the Greenwoods. We'll have thriving Black communities. We will not be consumers of everyone and everything else other than what we have to offer. So my final declaration this morning is this, that we're not our conditioning. We are the author of our lives, of our fate. Our identities is rooted, not borrowed. Our energy is to be directed, not scattered. Our life is to reflect. Our lives are to reflect alignment, not survival. And so it is. So I hope something was said this morning that put something on your mind. I introduced a few terms that you may or may not have been familiar with, but I want you to think about it. It's time for us to ask, is what we are our beliefs such that they benefit us? And is your belief something that you know or something you still need to drill down into and find out if it's truly true or false? So as we go into this Black History Month, I challenge you to do a self-assessment. How far have you drifted from who you were designed to be? From some, you maybe have never even knew who you were designed to be because you were acculturated right in. Acculturation can happen without you even knowing it. If you're born into a system or you're born into a family where acculturation was the goal, and that becomes the norm. But what we have to understand is that each of us are uniquely designed. And even if we have acculturated, there comes a time where we have to reset, recenter ourselves. And when we reset and recenter ourselves, we may find that we let go of a lot of things. We may let go of a lot of things we've been doing that we thought was just part of who we are. If it doesn't serve your highest and greatest good, why continue to do it? Okay. Well, if this has been a blessing to you, you received anything from it, and you want to be a blessing to the ministry, I offer this opportunity for you to sow a seed. And it's not because I have a need or because of greed, but you sow because you have found value in something that has been said, perhaps today, or if you've been with me all week, then you can do that by going to the Cash App or Zelle, and you just use the number 708-368. 1076 708-368 1076. So that's all I have to say about that. I like to always make sure that portal is open for those who want to sow a seed into the ministry. So let's go into the green room. For those of you who are going to stick around, you can stick around for the green room. For those who got to drop off, I'll see you next week. I sent the email out. I encourage you to look at that email and go through it. There's three distinctions there, three offers there. One, if you want to continue to be part of this, the Sunday mornings, the Science of Living, click that link so you'll get the emails going forward. Okay. If you want to make sure you get an email going forward that notifies you whenever I go live, you for the Sunday presentation, you gotta sign up. Secondly, if you want to participate in our Monday through Fridays, I have the morning meditations. There's a link in there. That way you'll get notifications. You will not only get notifications, but you'll get the blogs or the playbacks that I have. So if you want to get that, you have to sign up. And then thirdly, starting March, I believe it's March 3rd, on Tuesday nights, I'm going to do a intensive, a Science of Living intensive. It's a 22 weeks, and it's really for those people that want to make a transition. If you've been giving up some things, you've been in the land of in between, because particularly for those individuals who are dealing with, they have left the traditional religious practice that they've had, and now they're looking for something that's more empowering. But you need to deal with the cognitive dissonance that came with that. You want to consider coming in on the Tuesday night training. So I'm gonna have to go back into detail. You can open the email. If you didn't get the email, send me a text at 708-368-1076, and I'll make sure you get the email. So I'm moving forward in a more refined way. I'm giving up some of the old conversations, and I'm focusing on what needs to be focused on the now, stepping out of the past into the present so that you can show up as a present, as a gift to humanity. All right. All right. That gave you enough time to formulate questions. Let me see what we have. Um, um, Savanada, though, Beverly says, I resonate with today's teaching. Excellent. Rachel said, can energy of urgency be a form of procrastination? Um, it could be, but it usually isn't. It's a response to right now. So they're present to, but they're focusing on the urgency of something because they don't know their purpose. So if you know your purpose and you know the steps you need to take, but you allow things to interrupt it, that can be looked at as a form of, if you continue to do that, why do you procrastinate? Why do you deal with the shiny things versus the thing that you need to deal with? I tend to tell myself about certain things, I'll do it later, or if I have time. I guess I'm saying that I work better under pressure, and I know that is not always the best thing. Now, many of us had learned to work better under pressure because we had to deliver under pressure. It was survival. So that began to be a way of operating. So we have to change our operating systems from require pressure to get something done. No, I require purpose to get things done. Um, my mom said black and white ointment, right? You know, I imagine she was saying that white ointment works better than black ointment. In the mindset of those people who have been sold the bill, like two people selling ice on the corner. One is a black man selling ice. The white man is selling ice. The ice freezes at the same temperature, but at the same time, you assume that the other person's ice is better than your ice. That's that's what's known as devaluation, who we devaluate our ability to produce quality products. Okay, so I see one hand is up. I believe that's my mom's hand. Good morning, Mom. You have the mic.
Good morning. Good morning.
Did I
I
address your
really
question, or did you have a
enjoyed this
question?
service this morning. It hit me,
You may have to unmute yourself.
didn't I?
You might be muted. I see your hand, and it looked like you were saying something.
Did I unmute it now?
Like now, you're speaking, but I can't hear you. So
Hello?
most likely your mic is still muted. So if you would
I can't.
unmute yourself.
I,
All right. Is
I
there
did.
anybody else that has no, I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Cheryl says she can hear her, but for some reason I can't hear her. You may want to go out, close your mic, and open it up again. I'm not sure why I can't hear her. One second here. Let me see if I can make some adjustments here to the mic here. One second. Okay, let's try that. Mom, can you try again? Okay, Cheryl, why don't you come live to see if I can hear you. Okay, whoever's open that mic, I can hear the mic just came over. If you could say something.
Hello?
Okay, good. I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. Your message was right on point. I'm speaking about the doctors.
Mhm.
They tell you what they see, and they look at you because you disagree. and then they send you someplace else. But like I tell them, you're not going to put nothing on me that I don't have. And I'm not going to no treatment. They get mad at you. Why is that? They
Well,
get,
go
and
ahead. All right.
eh, they looking at the results just like I am. They looking at the paper just like I am. But they gonna tell you, I think you need to go on hospice. For what? I'm not hospice bound. No. I tell them, look, I don't know who you believe in or what your beliefs are, but what you see is not there with me. Okay? And I'm not doing this. And I'm not doing that. So I go see this white woman. She looks at me like I was dirt. She a doctor, radiologist. I don't know what he said to you to me. I'm looking at it, there ain't nothing else we can do. I say, I don't know why either. I don't know why either one of you all. And my oncologist show you how he think I'm stupid. He didn't put nothing in my remarks or summary. He didn't do that. I read the x-ray just like they did, the work. Now, I know what's wrong with me. Nothing. I know what my beliefs are. Good. And it's all on source. So I don't know what's the matter with these doctors now. They just out to make the fast buck. I got good insurance. But they look at you, oh, you fine. I know you don't want to do this. I know you. Well, why you say it if you know it? But your message was right on point to me. I can agree with everything you said about the way these professional people treat us.
Okay. So one of the
Right.
points I want you to really look at, we have to understand that we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
Right.
System that is strongly lobbied by pharmaceuticals and procedures. And many times the only way they make money is everything they send you to do, they bill for something. You'd be surprised the number. A good example could be you're being sent to the radiologist, and the radiologist doesn't find anything or have anything, can't give you anything. So why am I being even asked to do this? And sometimes when you look at your bill, you should go back to the insurance company and say, I'm being charged for a service, but the service did not benefit me in any way. I was sent for an exam, and there's nothing that I benefit from. And you'll find there's a lot of what I would consider malpractice going on within the healthcare system. But it's really upon us. Like I had a situation a year ago, and I had to explain to my physician, who was a Arab woman, what my mindset was, what my belief system was, and versus her projecting hers on me, even projecting the medical findings on me. Sometimes you got to have a conversation with people, and you can't let people define for you how you're going to live. The misdiagnosis is the diagnosis sometimes. Telling you you have so long to live, or telling you this is what's going to happen. We have to take authorship of our lives. That is, we have to begin to find out what should we be eating, how much rest should we be getting, that's being specific to you at a certain age versus you can get away with a lot of less rest when you're young, even though it's still not good. But as you get older, the things you were doing 20 years ago, even though you're still doing the food you were eating, you can't do it. So we have to understand even our diets. We eat low on the hog, or we ate survival food, and we named it soul food. But it was just food that helped us survive. And so we had to ask ourselves how much of our diets are survival diets that we don't have to continue to eat. And that survival diet is actually leading to our demise. And so that's why we have to stop depending on the norms that are given to be norms for us. each of us have to take responsibility for our health care, our mental health, um, our lives. And that's what this is about, authorship. Thank you for
Amen.
sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Beverly, and then I'll come right to you, Rachel. Good morning, Beverly. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. You all can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to say, let your mom know I agree with her totally, wholeheartedly. I know when you go to these doctors and you ask questions, if you go in there knowledgeable, they get a little insulted when you ask certain particular questions because they're like, I'm the professional here. They don't say it, but that's the energy they give. I'm the professional and you don't know what you're talking about. And so I know that's why a lot of our people or just a lot of people in general get misdiagnosed or don't get the proper treatment. The doctor just wants you to hear what he has to say and go along with it. But I ask questions. I usually have done some research before I go in. But
Yes.
it's rare. There are a few doctors who are happy or professionals who are happy when you come in knowledgeable. They go like, oh wow, when they see that you are invested in your own health, they tend to treat you better,
Yes.
but I feel bad for people that just go in there totally unknowingly and they put all their faith in the doctor. I've experienced that with my family members. Whatever the doctor says, they believe it, and until they just get tired. When the
Yeah.
medical profession keeps failing them, then eventually they say, I'm tired. I don't want any more surgery. I don't want, but by that time,
Yes.
it's late.
It's late. Right.
Yeah, but I just wanted to let your mom know I know exactly what she's talking about, and I agree. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing.
Good point that we have to, you know, check what the doctor gives us. And now it's easier today than ever. If you have been going to the doctor, you can go to an AI, like you can go to ChatGPT and say, and don't, many of you are not paying that $20, so it's not learning you. But if you're paying the $20, you want to say something like, I have a friend with this. The doctor says this, and then you can say, this friend is an African American female, which is you, and they're an older person. Can you tell me what should be taken consideration, or are there any alternative methods of dealing with hypertension or whatever? And you'll be surprised how AI is smarter than more smarter than your doctors. And many times your doctors are misdiagnosing you. Now, I'm not giving medical advice here, but I'm just giving you an example of how I use it. I would look at what are the alternative treatments. What are people what is having the best results, and just have a conversation with it, and you'll be surprised. Or what foods can I eat? What natural things can I eat to deal with this malady? And what things should I take on? It may say diet, it may say take walks, it may say exercise. It may introduce you to something you never thought about. So that's a very good point. You need to we need to educate ourselves and not just um, by default think the doctor has our best interest in mind. Just like we thought that our pastors had our best interest in mind. For the most part, they didn't. They want to keep the pews filled because that's how they live. Now, people may say that's not true. I'm gonna tell you, if I live by pushing a belief and knowing that a truth has come that would upset that apple cart, I'm going to keep teaching unless you got integrity. That's one of the reasons I shifted from um, traditional pastoring. I did it over a season, over a time, but I found it was not representing my highest and greatest good or the people that I was giving it to. So that's a whole nother question. But thanks, baby. Well, I want to make mention that you are one of three retired teachers we have out here. We have a lot of retired teachers, and our most recent retiree is Miss House, and she says she's having a good time in retirement. Awesome. Thank you. Good, good. Rachel, you have the mic.
Grand Rising Oasis family.
Yes.
Thank you, Brother Sorry. This is a very much needed, and let me turn my other phone off.
Okay.
This is giving me an echo. It is just I got so much out of this message, and you brought so many um, things to light. And I just agree with Sister Beverly and Ms. B concerning the healthcare profession, because we're working under a system where our elderly, especially um, black Black Americans, are we are they want to push you, they pushing you aside, and they quickly want to put you on hospice so that they feel that you've used up enough of the healthcare system's money. So therefore, we're gonna just kind of push you to the side because you're not worth an office visit or doing lab. It is be more economical to just send somebody to your house to help you bathe and a nurse, but you're on the hospice. In a lot of cases, you're not allowed to come into the hospital if you need to be admitted. So it's just kind of like giving up on you. And I definitely agree with that. Another case in point was I had a patient years ago. Well, she wasn't my patient, but I I had the patient in the bed at bed A and she was bed B. And this was a young lady, African American lady. She had no health insurance and she had like an ovarian cyst. And any woman know with an ovarian cyst, that is a painful thing, as painful as having a baby. And she was only given Tylenol. And I asked the nurse, I said, can she get something that, because she had no medical insurance, that's all she was given, Tylenol. She was not given any type of pain medicine. And this young lady just rolled in that bed. And it was just so painful for me to see how the healthcare profession, the system, looks on us as African Americans. And I'm going to be finished, but my husband was recently in the hospital last year. And had I not been a nurse, um, it wouldn't have went well because I was seeing signs, I was seeing symptoms. I was telling them, well, he had not. I said he's getting septic. I said septicemia will shut his organs down in a minute. I said I'm looking at his vitals, I'm looking at everything going on, and so finally, it was an Arab student, and she treated me like we should not. It's just like they told from the beginning that don't give good care to African Americans. And but I stayed with them and found out they redrove some labs, and whereas the labs was up in the, it was just too high. And I said, I told you he was septic, and I'm looking at all the symptoms. So you do need to be knowledgeable of what's going on when it comes to your health. And we as people, we are definitely operating under a system that is not favorable to us as African Americans.
It's systemic racism when you really understand the biases that even the foreigners who come here who treat us, they're operating
Yes.
from the biases of what been presented to them through the media. They've really not taken time to get to know the communities that they're serving. And so, but the onus is on us. We have to begin to ask, like I have a physician with the VA, and then I have another physician in the community who was an African American female. I couldn't find an African American male. I found an African American female, and even though when I meet with her, I don't assume that she's treating me with cultural competency. I will ask, what does the research say for Black men? And then she has said, well, I have to look that up. So that kind of tells me at least that she's open. I look at body language. I look at how my physicians interact with me from the moment they come in the room. If I shake hands with them, do I get a firm handshake? Are they looking me in the eye, or are they just looking at a screen? I mean, these are the things we have to look at. If it don't feel good for you, most likely it isn't good for you. And then you may ask yourself, am I responding to this person inappropriately, or am I responding to them because this is what they sent off to me? That's important. Look here, so great. And sometimes I don't even tell them what I already know. I want to see what they're going to say, and then I'll ask questions. And sometimes you might want to bring someone with you who, like, if you're a nurse and you have family members, you can go and just go and listen, and come as a family member. Because the moment they identify that you are a healthcare provider, they will begin to, maybe feel as though they are being second guessed, but you just want to hear how they deal with you. I'm looking here on the YouTube channel. Good morning, Lisa. It's good to see you. I'm pray things are well with you. I see Daz God Body too. It's good to see you today. Lisa said it's so ingrained that fear sparks when you it's so ingrained that fear sparks when your intellect speaks against you. Yeah, so we are our own worst enemies. Our inner me can become our enemy. So that's why we have to um, reset our mindset. We have to reset to be okay with being who we are and not um, operating from the paradigm of someone else. That's important. I can see you all. So if you're on the YouTube channel and you have a comment, go ahead, drop it in there. And I'm looking here. I don't see any other hands up here. Again, I pray that something has been said that is uplifting and encouraging. I'm shifting gears. I want you to read the email. I want you to respond to it because I'm not going to be sending out to the massive list that I've been sending out to. I don't like people to send me emails when I'm not responding. So I only want to send my emails out to those who desire to receive them. So the onus is on you all because I can't. I get people say, how do I get on the call? Well, you just read the email, sign up one time, and then you don't have to come on every call. You don't have to come to every training, but you will at least get notification. And it's better to have it and not need it than to need the notification and don't have it. So sign up for that, and you can always take yourself off the list. You can always say remove me. I prefer to you to say remove me than stay on a list that you're not really getting anything out of. Um, all right, that's all I have this morning. I will see you next Sunday. I'll see some of you on Monday morning, 6 a.m. for the morning meditations. Until then, I will chat with you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your day. I'm going for this Seattle as my Super Bowl pick. I don't know who you're going for, but may the best team win. All right. And we know we can't pray. It's amazing. So you got two teams this morning. You have two teams praying to God, to the same God to win. And at the end of the game, they'll say, God, giving honor to God who gave me this win. No, God don't give you the wins in life. You create the wins in life. You either practice so you could be prepared or you didn't. And we put too many things we say, is it God's will? Well, God's will is your will. Whatever you want to do is up to you. We have to stop using these statements that are not substantiated in truth, but they sound like truth because we're honoring God. But a lot of times it's putting off onto God what God has put on to you. It's given you authority, it's given you dominion, it's given you capacity. So let's use it. All right, that's all I have. I'll see you guys on next week. Peace.